Why my neighbor's windows never have lights. The moment the door broke, the dark inside breathed out. Police lights flashed red and blue across the silent house. Officers moved in a line, shoulders tight, voices steady. When they pushed through, their flashlights cut long white tunnels through the black. I stood on the sidewalk with my hands shaking, because this was my neighbor's place, the one with windows that never, ever had lights. "Clear the kitchen," an officer said. Another pointed his beam down a hall. "Hands. Let me see your hands." A shape froze in the light, then slid back like a shadow. The smell that rushed out was bleach and old air, like a closet that hadn't been opened in years. I heard a sound I will never forget. Not a scream. Not words. It was the soft, confused voice of someone who hasn't seen light in a long time. "Please," they said, and the please broke in the middle like a stick. The beams found faces. 4, then 6. Then more, all blinking, all holding their breath, standing in a room with blankets on the windows and a towel shoved under the door. Not one lamp. Not one nightlight. Only darkness, like a rule somebody made them follow. A female officer knelt and held up a bottle of water. "You're safe," she said. "It's okay. You're safe." Behind her, another officer pushed on a locked door near the back. It didn't open. He tried again, harder. We all heard a low scrape from the other side. Footsteps. "Someone's still in there." "Back room," an officer said into his radio. "We've got a secure door and movement." He turned his head, listening to a voice I couldn't hear. Then he looked up the hallway and lifted his chin. "He's not alone." That was all he said, but the hair at the back of my neck stood up anyway. You can guess why this house had no lights now. But it didn't start with sirens. It started with small things only a neighbor would notice, and I was that neighbor. My name is Daniel. I moved to the cul-de-sac in Colorado at the end of a snowy January, when the air stung and the sky looked like a sheet of paper you could fold. I liked the sound of the street, quiet, like a library. I liked my old blue truck and the way it looked in the driveway, even when it was covered in frost. I liked how people waved when they walked their dogs. And I noticed the house across from me because it did not wave back. It didn't do anything. At first it seemed empty. No porch light. No TV flicker. No voices. But the yard was always neat. The snow was always shoveled, not all at once, just in strips, as if someone did it at odd hours. The trash can never sat on the curb. The mailbox never overflowed. It was like the house was trying to be invisible and doing a really good job. On my second week, I met Emma, who lived next door to that house and owned a happy brown dog named Peanut. "They're never outside," she said, rubbing Peanut's ears. "You ever see anyone?" "No," I said. "It's like a picture of a house. Just flat." She laughed and then didn't. "I don't like walking past it at night," she said. "It's too quiet. I work from home. My desk faces the street. I don't spy, but I notice things." In February, I saw a van stop there at 3:08 in the morning. No headlights. The driver used only the glow of the dashboard to park. He stayed for minutes. He did not get out. The porch never lit. Then he left. The next night, he came again. For minutes. No lights. No footprints in the snow afterward, which made no sense unless someone swept them or unless the person who came and went knew exactly where to step so you wouldn't see. In March, I saw a man in a black cap go to the side gate at noon like he belonged. He carried a tool bag. He walked fast. He didn't ring the doorbell. He pressed the gate, slipped through, and vanished behind the fence. 10 minutes later, he came back out without the bag. He didn't have dust on him. He didn't have paint on him. He didn't look like someone who fixed things. He looked like someone who knew he should not be seen. I told myself normal stories because normal stories make you feel safe. Maybe the house belonged to a company. Maybe it was a short-term rental. Maybe the owners were older and liked it dark. But there was another thing. Sometimes, when I was up late with a bad movie, I could hear a low hum across the street, as if a small generator were running, deep and steady, under the floor. And once, when the wind pressed against my front door, I smelled something sharp and sour, like bleach, and the smell seemed to come from their open garage. Open for just a minute, like a yawn. Life had lows and highs in between. A neighborhood barbecue in April where everyone brought potato salad and recipes. A birthday party for the twin kids who lived at the corner, balloons on the mailbox, a tiny bounce house. A spring storm that popped the power off for an hour and made us all step onto our porches at the same time, smiling in that "hey neighbor" way. During that blackout, every house on the street went dark, even mine, of course. But across the street, behind the thick curtains, I thought I saw a faint orange glow at floor level, like a candle under a towel. The next morning, I walked by slow. The curtains had tape on the edges, holding them to the wall. The tape looked new. Could be construction, I told myself. Could be nothing. Emma didn't think it was nothing. My dog won't walk past, she said. Peanut, usually brave, stopped at the driveway and whined. His fur stood up like static. He's never done that, she said. I called the non-emergency line that week. I used a calm voice. I don't want to waste your time, I said. But my neighbor's house is strange. No lights. No people. Cars at odd hours. Curtains taped down. A generator hum at night. It could be nothing. It could be something. The dispatcher was kind. We'll do a welfare check, she said. Thank you for calling. 2 officers came the next day. They knocked. They waited. They walked the front path and the back fence line. They peered through the taped curtains and saw only more curtain. After 8 minutes, they left a card in the door. All set. I asked. No answer. One of them said, not unkind. We'll note it. Days passed. Nights passed. A white SUV came and went on a loop I could almost set my watch by. It always stayed 5 minutes. Sometimes 3. Always with the lights off at the curb. I started writing the times on a notepad. 2:56 a.m., 3:12 a.m., 4:02 a.m. The schedule did not make sense. It felt like pickups and drop-offs. It felt like the house was a mouth, opening and closing just enough to eat. One afternoon I saw something that kicked me out of maybe and into no. A small hand, just a flash, like a bird wing, moved the corner of the second floor curtain and then vanished. The hand was there and then gone in one heartbeat. I stood in my driveway with a bag of groceries and forgot to breathe. When I remembered, I called again. Please, I said. This time bring more people. To their credit, they listened. A detective called me back. He asked careful questions. Times, license plates, noises, smells. I read him my list and felt silly for tracking shadows. He did not make me feel silly. Thank you, he said. We've had reports like this in other places. We take them seriously. That same night, someone slipped a note under my doormat. The paper was thin and wrinkled, and the writing was tiny but hard, like each letter had to punch through a layer of fear. It said, "We are here. Please help quietly." There was no name, no number, just those words. I took a picture. I put the note in a zip bag like I had watched people do on TV. Then I sat in my kitchen with the light off and stared at my own hands shaking in the glow from the stove. I did not sleep. The next day, a woman I had never seen walked past my driveway at noon. She wore a hood even though the sun was warm. She stopped and faced the house with no lights. She didn't move for 10 seconds. Then she knelt and tied her shoe for a long time like a person in a spy movie, but this was not a movie, and her hands were shaking so hard she couldn't get the knot right. Emma saw her too. You okay? Emma asked from the sidewalk. The woman stood, nodded quickly without looking up, and left like she was late for a bus. Every part of me wanted to run after her and ask, but I didn't, because fear makes you quiet if you let it. That weekend, I heard voices from the house for the first time. Not words, not laughter, not TV, just the low rhythm of many people breathing in one place, like the ocean when you're sleeping near it. The air in my living room felt heavy, and I went to my porch and sat on the top step, because being outside made me feel like I could do something if I had to. At 2:37 a.m., the white SUV parked 2 houses down instead of in front. The driver walked the rest of the way, fast. He knocked once at the side door. The door opened just a little, and no light came out. He passed a plastic tote inside and got a different tote back. Then he left. He did not look up. He did not look around. It was the fastest exchange I'd ever seen someone make without words. I texted the detective. He's here right now, I wrote. White SUV. I gave the plate. I still have it in my phone. He wrote back one word, received. On Monday, the plan started. I did not know the plan, but I could feel it in the way the street went slow, in the way two city trucks suddenly needed to check a nearby manhole, in the way a jogger I had never seen tied her shoe for a very long time at the corner and spoke into the collar of her sweatshirt. A sedan that looked like any other sedan sat on the far end of the block with two men inside who were too still to be neighbors. At sunset, a man pushing a stroller went by and never looked down at the baby. The stroller was just a stroller. Unless it wasn't. I cleaned my kitchen twice that day and forgot to eat. Emma came over with peanut and a plate of cookies and said nothing for 10 minutes. Then she put the plate down, leaned her elbows on my counter, and said, "If something happens, I'll take Peanut to the back and call. You just keep doing what you're doing." "What am I doing?" I asked. "Looking out," she said. "That matters." I don't know when the officers decided to move. It felt like it happened all at once. Two SUVs turned the corner with no sirens. People I thought were neighbors took off hats and jackets and turned into someone else. The sedan on the end rolled forward, slow, like a shark. An unmarked van stopped 2 doors down. A voice on a radio said, "Now," and the world changed. They went quiet and fast. 3 at the front. 2 at the side gate. 1 at the back. A knock? Firm, official. A second knock, louder. A third sound that was not a knock at all but the heavy thump of a door giving up because it had to. You know the part after that. The darkness inside. The towels under doors. The taped curtains. The bleach. The voices that sounded like paper tearing when they tried to be words. The faces, pale in flashlight beams, standing and shaking because the rules of the house had changed. Lights off, someone had made them keep. No noise. Don't go near the windows. Don't be seen. I learned later from the detective that the house had been used as a safe stop by bad people who move humans around like boxes. I hate that sentence. It makes me want to throw the whole world away and start over. They kept them in the dark so nobody would see shadow on a curtain. They kept them quiet so nobody would hear a laugh and think, "Oh, someone's home." They kept the trash inside so it wouldn't sit on the curb. They ran a little generator under the floor so they could cook rice and plug in a phone without turning on a single switch. While officers guided people out, careful, gentle, like you help someone stand up after being on a bad ride too long, another team focused on the back room. The locked door. The scrape behind it. The one who runs things always tries the back. The detective had told me earlier in the day, his voice careful, like he didn't want to scare me. If he's here, he'll have a plan. They found a panel behind a shelf, painted the same color as the wall. A hinge made shiny from use. Behind it, a short space and another door that opened into the attached garage. In the garage, a van with a blanket across the back windows. In the floor, a bolt that turned and made a sound like a safe unlocking. The bolt lifted a square of plywood where carpet had been peeled and replaced 100 times. Under that square, a little ladder like a tongue, and under the ladder, a crawl space that ran under the house toward the fence line. "Don't," I wanted to say, though nobody could hear me. "Don't go down there alone." They didn't go alone. They went in pairs, with lines to their belts so the team could pull them out if they shouted. Another pair went out the gate to the side yard to see if the crawl space had a daylight hole. I stood on my lawn because I suddenly couldn't stand on the sidewalk anymore. Emma stood beside me with Peanut and whispered, "It's okay," like a prayer, like a promise, like a lie and a truth. Time stretched like gum. The detective walked out and spoke into his radio and pointed and then walked back in. A woman with a notebook asked something and put a hand on one of the people who had come out, a girl who looked both young and like she had seen too much. "You're safe," she said again. "You're safe." I want to cry when I write that part. I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep my voice steady. And then a new sound came out of the house. Not a voice. Not a door. A crunch, like heavy boots on gravel where gravel shouldn't be. The officer at the side gate called out, "Movement under the fence." A beam of light swung low, close to the grass. Someone was under there, moving fast through that hidden run, belly to the dirt, eyes on the line that led out. I took one step without thinking. Emma grabbed my sleeve and kept me from making the worst mistake of my life, which was to run toward the noise with nothing but my fear. The detective shouted, "Hold perimeter." The team by the fence shifted. A flashlight found a square of wire cut loose at the bottom. The beam caught a black cap pressed flat to the earth. To move. Everything moved. And then, as the night held its breath for what would happen next, every light on the street went out. Not just our block. The whole slope. Houses went from lit to black like someone pulled a blanket over the neighborhood. The red and blue on the police SUVs froze and died. The only light left was the thin moon and the thin beams in the officers' hands. Somewhere far off, a transformer popped like a firework, and then there was only the wind. A voice came from very close to me, too close, close like the space between two mailbox posts. It was not a voice I knew. It was not a voice I will ever forget. It said, soft and flat like a rule, "Turn off your lights."